this is not a partisan issue. It's not about being right or left politically. It's about a basic, fundamental constitutional right.
Hi, I'm Tracy Oppenheimer for ReasonTV, and today we're here with the Reverend Rick Hoyt from the First Unitarian Church of Los Angeles. Reverend, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Tracy. It's good to be here.
So right now you've joined forces with the Electronic Frontier Foundation and 19 other organizations to sue the NSA for overreach of electronic surveillance, and there's a number of these lawsuits floating around right now, so could you talk about yours specifically and why we should pay attention to it?
Well, the argument in First Unitarian Church versus NSA is a particular argument focused on the First Amendment. Several of these other cases have been brought on Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. The First Amendment, though, guarantees a person's right to free assembly. The reason that the collection of plaintiffs on the First Unitarian Church versus NSA lawsuit are so broad is that the Electronic Frontier Foundation is trying to make the legal point that this is not a partisan issue. It's not about being right or left politically. It's about a basic, fundamental constitutional right. And so the 19 plaintiffs are organizations who have legitimate reasons to fear that persons who would like to associate with our groups might be afraid to have phone call communication with our organizations because of the NSA surveillance. And therefore, by associating with our organization, they then might attract that government attention on themselves. So it infringes with our ability as a church to attract members, and it infringes with our members' ability to freely associate with an organization of their choosing. The Unitarian principles, religious principles, have to do with ensuring justice and equality and liberty for all people. And we do think that as part of our religious work in the world to move out into the public sphere. My church has been heavily involved in political action throughout the rest of the 20th century and up to the current day.
Can you talk about your church's activism in the 50s?
In the 1950s, of course, we all remember it was the McCarthy era. There was a lot of anti-communist hysteria going on. And here in Hollywood, actors and writers were being blacklisted for presumed communist affiliation. And my church took a very public and courageous stand on supporting people who were being harassed by the government because of their political beliefs. Our own minister was hauled before the House Un-American Activities Committee and was interviewed by them. Our church stopped keeping a membership list during the 1950s because people were afraid of signing on to an organization that was under surveillance by the government. So that's a very relevant piece of our history to the current situation.
So talk about this chilling effect a little bit more. I mean, the NSA has said we're not recording actual conversations.
Well, that is a common defense that, well, we're not actually looking at what you're saying or listening to what you're saying in the phone conversations. But there's still a lot of information you can gain about a person just from noticing who they're calling and how often they call and how long the phone calls are, which is all information that the NSA is collecting. So for instance, if I have someone who's interested in becoming a member of our church and they're calling the church for 6 or 7 times over the course of a couple of weeks, and then my church is calling them back for a few times, it's pretty reasonable to infer that that person is looking to assemble, to associate with my church. And if they are afraid of making those kinds of phone calls or receiving phone calls from the church, then it might definitely have this chilling effect on them, making them reconsider their actions of joining my church or coming to the church even not as a member, but just for programs.
What's the timeline right now? I mean, the EFF just filed.
The EFF has several cases, including some other cases, working on this particular piece of public policy, some of which have lasted already several years. There does seem to be a heightened interest and a little more momentum in the last couple of months having to do with Edward Snowden. The issue is now public enough, and enough people are aware of what's going on. And there's even voices in the government themselves that are beginning to question how far the administrative department has gone, that we'll probably see a legislative change that will solve some of these issues before this court case would go all the way to the courts mandating a change. So that's my hope.
We've been talking with the Reverend Rick Hoyt from the First Unitarian Church of Los Angeles. Reverend, thanks again for being here.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
For ReasonTV, I'm Tracy Oppenheimer.